Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness, this has been such an intense week. But um, today is the last conversation we're having on She Leads Tech for Impact. Remember that we started this series in this month of March, in commemoration of International Women's Day, and I'm having the last conversation in this series with Grace Waswa, who is the founder of Beautify Networks in Kenya, and I'm super excited to have her join us. We've covered different topics. While I think I'm going to send you a request, Grace, because I see that you're here. We've touched on different topics. Also talked about digital communication. We spoke with Zakatwa. Yes, I think the Grace is here. Please tell me you're here. Awesome. How are you? How are
I'm
you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How's your exams? I know that you've been writing exams, and I think you're done now.
Yes.
How did that
Yeah, I've
go?
done.
It's such
I
a,
was
such
just
a
done.
relief, I'm sure.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I said it's such a relief. I'm sure it's such a relief to have completed your exams.
Oh, it is. It is such a relief. It was quite a hectic time. I mean, the bar exams can make you go crazy. But I finished yesterday, so it's such a relief because now a lot has been lifted off my back.
I know. And I'm sure after today's event, you can just take the weekend off and rest, relax, refresh, and then prepare again to run, trusting
Yeah.
God for you. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me this evening on today's conversation. And we'll be talking about using technology, accelerating the SDGs with tech. I know you're very passionate about the SDGs,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's how I met you in one of the programs that we had in 20, I think that was in 2021, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've gone from Vijana 2.0 initiative to Unify Networks. So without further ado, I think you should just go ahead and share with me how you developed that conviction to become an SDG advocate and to just passionately push for the implementation of the SDG goals in your country.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the invitation. Truly honored to be sharing my journey and story with the audience at your organization. Um, Starting what I'm doing right now, I think it just evolved. I cannot say that I had this big plan to start Youthify or SDGs and me. Youthify is what was Vijana 2.0 initiative. It's just that we've been changing the name and all that. So but when I started, I had been a youth leader in my church, and I had seen a lot of challenges among the young people. So, being in a position of leadership, I was very young myself. I think I had just completed high school, and I was granted that opportunity to lead the young people in my church. And that really opened my eyes to the different challenges that young people face. And I was able to identify the specific needs that many young people do have, especially when it comes to employment, unemployment, or underemployment. So it was at that time that I realized if we do not do something, I think things are going to get worse. But at that time, things were for the young people in my church and not young people at a global level. So we started with workshops and in my church, and we'd have experts come and talk to the young people about business, about careers, and really just different things that young people would learn from so that they can be able to become economically stable. And that is how Vijana Tupu started. I think 2020, when COVID really set in our country, we just grew. I think COVID-19 was a blessing for Vijana Tupu because we were operating online. When we shifted from the workshops, we decided to go online because of the resources in terms of funding, and online was really just cheap for us to have the workshops and the webinars and all that. So 2020, everyone was online, so it wasn't really hard to gather people to come and listen to your workshop. It wasn't really hard to tell people to join a session and all that. So in the whole of 2020, we transition online, and then we opened our podcasts, and here we are today. What we're doing at Youthify Networks is building a resource center for young people so that they can be able to access any type of resource they need in terms of business, careers, and the sustainable development goals. Now, the idea of the Sustainable Development Goals did come from Vijana Tupo, because when we started, I was really, really keen on helping to solve SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth. But as we have grown, we have separated that. I've been able to separate Youthify Networks and now a new platform called SDGs and Me, so that the people that are interested really in just learning about the Sustainable Development Goals are catered for independently and very well, as opposed to having all of them, those that need resources on money or resources on career development skills and all that. We are removing that mixture. So I think SDGs have always just been there in the little projects that we've done. But right now we have kind of separated the two, but they're still under one organization, just separated one to be Youthify Networks and one is SDGs and Me. Yeah.
Right. I guess so. So you call them your program. So since you do SDGs and Me, can you talk to us about the SDGs? I know you've talked about some of the SDGs that you're focused on and Youthify, but for anyone who eventually watches this replay, let's talk to them and educate them briefly in a few minutes what the SDGs are and how we can plug into what the SDGs are trying to achieve in Africa.
Okay, great. So the SDGs stand for the Sustainable Development Goals. In 2015, nations gathered in New York at the UN headquarters, and they came up with these global goals that every country was supposed to at least try and achieve by 2030. Before the Sustainable Development Goals existed, there were the Millennium Development Goals. And I think to a certain extent, they was achieved, but not very fully. And so in 2015, it was a more comprehensive kind of setup. 17 goals as opposed to the 10 goals, I think, for the Millennium Development Goals. And this ones came with targets and things that countries need to look out for to see or to assess whether they have been able to achieve. So they are 17 in number. They tie all countries that are part of the United Nations, and they're really the things that we go through, the challenges that we go through in our countries, things such as poverty, education, climate change, things even going to menstrual equity. They're still part of the Sustainable Development Goals. So they are 17 in number, and they do work hand in hand. One cannot exist on its own, because if you look at social challenges, the reason why we have poverty, for example, is because probably there is no education in a certain community, or maybe there is no good governance in a certain community. So these SDGs really just work hand in hand. The poverty one works hand in hand with education. The education works hand in hand with good health. All of them are quite integrated, and they are particular on helping countries, helping individuals live a better life, achieve prosperity and peace, and really just a planet that is, livable, a livable planet for all of us. Whenever we talk about the SDGs, they always look like these really big goals that are for the new UN headquarters, and people are not really, the poll is like, how then am I related to the SDGs? But I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, they are our everyday challenges. You see those people you see in your community that are suffering from, maybe they don't have water, or they don't have food, or maybe there's littering in your community, or it's just something that isn't going well, there's poor leadership, there's corruption. All of those little challenges are tied to the SDGs. So anyone that's doing anything to solve those challenges in the small circle, or whether it's small or it's big, they are in one way or another achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
Very succinctly put, and I think that when you look at the world, basically, you're able to, tie in the challenges that you see to all of these goals. Any one of them, like you said, poverty is related to education, like you said, healthcare, good and quality healthcare, and then climate change, of course, environment. All of it is nicely put together. But I know that as we work on, accelerating and implementing these goals, we often find challenges. I have my own challenges in Nigeria. You have your own challenges in Kenya. So let's talk about some of these challenges that you faced. I know that 2020 was good for you, but I know that you still have gone through challenges. How have you gone through these challenges? How did you overcome them?
Okay, very first challenge I faced was funding, and I think funding is a challenge that all of us just face when you're starting anything and everything. The resources that you need to set up whatever project that you have, but for us, we quickly solved, not fully, but just quickly solved funding by innovating. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we were doing physical workshops with Youthify Networks, which is trying to solve SDG 8. We quickly shifted to WhatsApp, to everything that's online, that's free and that's online. And so that really helped us as an organization to cut that expense of, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need this. So funding is always, even with the SDG, for example, right now we have a challenge called the SDGs and Me Challenge, where we have had around 76 participants from all over the world. So most of them, the challenges that they raise with the ideas that they have is, where am I going to get this money? How exactly am I going to come up with money to ensure that this project, is successful? But then again, there's always a way out. There is always a way out. What I tell my SDG participants at SDGs and Me, you can always be creative and come up with a sustainable plan. And that just leads me to the second challenge, which is the lack of knowledge. I think the lack of knowledge in building, in managing, and in sustaining any initiatives or any project or any ideas that we have as SDG advocates is such a big challenge. A lot of us want to partner with people, join initiatives, and become these big, incredible people that are building successful organizations or impactful things that are serving communities in terms of the SDGs. But the knowledge gap is such a big thing, because they don't know how to build something sustainable, and so it crumbles within the first few months that they have built their project. And I faced that challenge myself. I think I failed so many times, and I wanted to quit so many times, but I had to force myself. I really had to force myself to learn, and I had to push myself to learn. So the biggest challenges, I think, are having that finance, and secondly, having that idea, the knowledge that you really just need to have as a person to organization and to build something that's very, very sustainable. Yeah.
Absolutely. Spot on. I remember that during the conversation I was having with Emmanuel on Monday, we talked about the knowledge gap and how we can be much more intentional with, closing that gap. If it means taking a course, if it means, and one of the challenges that I've seen with nonprofit leaders is they don't want to pay, or SDG advocates, they're always looking for, or they look for freebies, not wanting to spend resources to get the knowledge. But yes, we must get knowledge if we're going to build, like you said, if we're going to manage what we build, and if we're going to sustain. I really love that we spoke about those three dimensions of building our project. So how has technology helped you? What are some of the benefits of using technology? We spoke about technology on one day, and I know that not many people are knowledgeable when it comes to using technology to lead and to build their projects. So talk to us about how technology has helped you. What are the benefits of using technology, and how we can also close the knowledge gap when it comes to our ability to use technology platforms to implement the SDGs?
Okay, great question. Technology has been everything for every project I've done with Youthify, Vijana Tupo, or SDGs and Me. Technology has been everything, and I did not have a background of technology. Like I didn't do anything IT related. I was absolutely new to technology, but it was one of those things that came into our projects, and we just saw it's like a 360 turnaround, because then things are quite easy. You're able to access people, you're able to reach out to people quite easily. So for us, I think it has been the fact that we've been able to reach a greater audience, one. So we've been able to get to many people in Kenya, outside Africa, who have been part of our community at Youthify Networks and at SDJs and Me podcast. So that has been the very, very fast thing. It has really helped us access different audiences that we never knew. If we were doing physical things like visiting schools and all that, I think it would have been quite expensive for us. And two, it would have been quite challenging to access new audiences. So accessing more people, because technology then brings in social media, it brings in different ways you can just reach out to people and all that. Two, it really has revolutionized the idea of us building and creating resources for people. Starting Youthify Networks in 2019 as Vijana Tupo, there was no idea of we can actually build a digital resource center, a platform for young people to join and access anything at any time with free and paid membership and all that. So the fact that it consolidated everything that we needed to do and placed it at one particular place made it easier for anyone that's in Kenya, outside Kenya, to access our resources. I think that was the biggest plus that we've received at SDJs and Me or at Youthify Networks. So it just made things quite easy for us. It made things quite, I was able, actually, one thing I have really loved is that I've been able to reach out to so many people within that have formed now my network, that have formed part of my network, and they have been able to help Vijana Tupo or SDJs and Me because of just that aspect of technology. So yeah, I think that's it. It's just made things quite easier for us. It's brought in a new idea. It revolutionized the idea of how we can bring resources or present resources to people by consolidating everything at one place. Yeah.
Awesome. An example of connectivity outside of your country is, I've never met you, but yeah. I know that we met online in 2021, and we built that connection. And I mean, I'm part of your resource pool. You're part of my resource pool, and that's what technology does, for us as individuals. So yes, we can access more people. We can consolidate projects, like you said, and of course, connectivity. What are some of the challenges that that you think prevent us from achieving the SDGs in Africa? I know that there are quite a number of challenges. If we decide to break them down today, we won't leave here. But what are some of the challenges that you see, and what are the practical solutions that we can employ to solve or tackle some of these challenges?
Okay, I think apart from the ones that I had mentioned at the beginning, we talked about the lack of funding and all those things. I think one thing that I would mention is just the lack of understanding of what the SDGs are. I think things are actually changing. There is more understanding as to what the Sustainable Development Goals are and what they speak to and how they address challenges that we face every day. But there's still such a big gap. Because if people do not know what exactly the SDGs are, and if governments or organizations are not quite focused on passing the same to people, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to raise leaders or us to raise change makers that are going to put in their resources together and advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that's a really big challenge, because we start from there. We start from understanding that these are the SDGs. Can they be communicated to our schools? Can children understand that we are trying to solve climate action? Can children climate change? Can children try to understand that there are kids from a particular region that have not stepped in school for a long time because, one, maybe there's no food or there's no water, and so they can't come to school and concentrate. If the knowledge and understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals is diffused to children, is brought to children or brought to audiences that are quite young, I think it's going to be quite easier for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, because then they grow up understanding that we have these challenges. These are things that we face every day, and you can have an idea that can solve this and this and this. Something else I think that is a challenge is how we place the Sustainable Development Goals in such a complex manner. I think we have really complicated the SDGs. They are quite complicated, yes, but I think if we'd have it broken down in easier, just easier digestible words or digestible ideas, it would have been quite easy for people to grasp what the SDGs actually are and to advocate for that. And the fact that they have been made so complex, these big 17 goals, young people or people just in general have shied away from localizing the SDGs and coming down to their communities and bringing solutions related to their communities. They have been made to feel like they are these global goals that you need to go to New York to achieve, or you need to go to wherever to achieve. But these are things that if they are broken down, I mean, local solutions bring global action. So if they are broken down and just people understand that these things are not actually complex, it is as easy as picking up litter in your community. It's as easy as planting trees. It's the just easy things that we can actually do to contribute to that. So that knowledge gap, and I think we need to stop complicating the SDGs. There are things that we can localize and we can actually achieve. Yeah.
So one of the things I was thinking about, the institutionalizing the process of passing the knowledge about SDGs, especially from an early stage. If I was just thinking about it while you were speaking, because that would go a long way in helping people understand what the SDGs are and getting them to care about it. I know that in this part in Africa, basically, we're still trying to, meet our basic needs of food, clothes, houses, so sometimes it's sort of difficult to think beyond yourself and to realize that, the next person or their communities that, do not have water, their communities where children do not go to school, and all of that. So my thinking is that because we have all of these challenges, it's sort of difficult to get people to start thinking about, solving. And that's why it seems like it's the West that is so big on the SDGs, and people cannot relate so much in Africa. They just think that, charity, the companies abroad, the international organizations are pushing a charity cause. But I think we need to move beyond just thinking about SDGs as a charity cause, right? It should be, we need to move from just thinking about it as, I'm doing a charity project here, charity program here. No, we all must just work together to build sustainable societies and then implement some of these causes. Because at the end of the day, they're sort of the bedrock on which a society, would stand on. Yeah, that was my thought. You want to add anything?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, sorry, can you hear me? Or is it,
yes,
there's a lag in the network?
Yes, there's a lag in the network.
Okay. Okay. What I was saying is that I think I absolutely agree with you. What we need to start doing is completely shatter the mindset that we cannot come up with solutions, and we just need to rely on people to come up with solutions for us. You see, the thing is, we know the problems, we know the challenges, and something that I really like saying, especially to young people, is that we know what we're going through. We know the challenges that we're going through as communities, as different citizens of different countries. We understand what we're going through. So why exactly are we waiting for people out there to come and help us solve our problems? Yet they don't understand. Of course, they're going to bring solutions from their perspective and not from our perspective. So I think one thing that we totally need to shut down, and I don't know what we need to use to break down that mindset, is that we just need to get help from out there for us to come up with better and just good solutions for our countries. I think it's time that that's even taught in schools. It's taught in our colleges, and it's taught everywhere that we are capable of coming up with solutions. They may look a little bit fragile or small, but that little thing, it really does go a long way. Because if many people are able to do those little things, I mean, that's great impact. So yeah, I agree with you.
I was going to say, ask the question, perhaps colonialism has a role to play with the mindset, and then of course our education, our curriculum as well, because I don't think that our curriculum, applies to the present age. And I know there are a couple of countries that are in Africa that are pushing for an update in the curriculum. I know that Nigeria as well is working on updating the curriculum, especially for the primary, secondary schools, which I'm sure that you have as there in Kenya. But I absolutely agree on us, coming up with solutions, African solutions for African problems, right?
Yeah.
We know what the issues are, we know how it pinches us, as they say, and then we're able to, based on the metrics that are available to us and based on our understanding, come up with unique solutions. Yes, we can employ methods and employ what has been successful in other countries in the West, for instance, but we must then adapt it, to solve our problems and stop waiting for them to come and solve our problems. We've been waiting for so long, and I mean, how far have we gone, while waiting? So I was going to ask a question around your thinking and ideology when it comes to impact, right? I was speaking with someone a few weeks ago, and she said that impact for her, you can define what impact is. So impact is not a definition that, it's not a one-fit-all definition, right? There are different meanings of impact to each person. Impact means a different thing to another person. So let's talk about impact, what impact means to you, even though I kind of feel like I know what impact means to you, and then how we can, use technology to make impact and accelerate impact, based on your own understanding and perception in this time.
Okay. I think for me, impact really just starts from the people. It does not start from me. It cannot start from me. It should start from the people, because that's how we measure that our work or whatever we've been doing has actually been achieved. So I think it starts from the satisfaction of the people, satisfaction of the needs of the people, the needs that we've been trying to solve. Very, very people-centered. No matter what resources or whatever ways we use, it needs to be people-centered. So that's my definition of impact. We have incorporated technology, for example. For us, we've incorporated technology to achieve impact, to achieve things that we need to achieve as an organization. So technology has truly, truly driven whatever we're doing. And technology doesn't have to be the AI, the coding, and all those things. Simple things such as this Instagram Live, that's technology. I mean, those little things that people do ignore, they have really, really helped us achieve the impact that we wanted to achieve. So yes, impact for me is the people, how the people have received what we are trying to provide for them, how they have been impacted by what we're trying to do for them. And for us, technology has driven the impact that we wanted to achieve. Yeah.
So for someone looking to make an impact using technology, what would your advice be to them? Where can they start from? How do they just go ahead with using the platforms available to them to make an impact?
Okay, just start. Whatever you need, just start. For me, I think what I did is I just researched how to do things easier. We were doing a lot of things at that time, so I needed an easier route, and technology was the easier route. It came. I mentioned one of the advantages of us using technology is that it lifted a lot of burdens that we were having to drive our organization forward. So you just need to start by researching what is easier and what is easier that can work for you. Building a website these days, or building something like, say, for example, as we've been building our resource center, it wasn't hard. Let me not say extremely easy. It was not hard, because these days technology is so available for you that you can actually build your own website without having coding skills, absolutely zero coding skills, and you can come up with an exciting and beautiful thing that you can use to develop or to impact people in your community. To reach out to organizations or communities that are related to technology and innovation. I think for us, the major one was the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the Solferino Academy. And when we were part of them, once we joined their whole circle, and we actually were able to be awarded Youth Innovators globally last year, we learned a lot. From somebody that knew nothing about technology, I think we learned a lot, and we were able to understand how we can incorporate innovation and technology in trying to solve the challenges that we have as a country. So research, and then join communities. Just join communities that are doing what you intend to do, or join communities that are related to innovation and technology, and that will help you get an idea of how to move around the tech space.
Absolutely. I think we should talk about so research starts small, and then don't let your mindset stop you from reaching for what you want to go for. Let's talk about values and principles, because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, the values that we have as individuals play a strong role in us achieving what we've set out to achieve in terms of what if we're leading for impact, or if we want to accelerate the SDGs. Values, principles. Let's talk about values and principles.
We actually did a podcast, I think, at the beginning of the year about how values really do impact your leadership, and they
Right.
impact how you move your organization forward. And so that's something that's it's very key to me, even when we talk to young people or young leaders in our circle, is that we tell them, what are your values before you even set your goals? What are your values? Because then they decide or they direct you. They're kind of like a guiding light on what you need to do in terms of decisions you need to make, people you need to interact with, conversations you need to have as a person leading an organization. So yes, values are very, very important. And I think for every SDG advocate, those are things you need to set for yourself. How do they relate to you? What are your personal values as a leader? And the principles that you need to set come from your values. I believe principles do come from your values, because then you are able to identify this far I cannot go, but this far I can go. This route I cannot take, but this route I can take. And these things really do, you start applying them even when you're looking for partnerships. There are different people that will approach you, and you are running a beautiful project, they want to be part of it, but maybe their value or whatever that's in their organization doesn't really align to your value as a person and the values that you have set for your organization. So what I can say about values and principles: set them very early, even before you set your goals. Set your your values first. Set your values first, and then you'll be able to come up with principles from that. You'll be able to come up with good goals from that. Your values need to be aligned to what's important to you as a person. For me, what was important to me as a person was good leadership. Good leadership in whatever kind of way, that was extremely important to me. So it was one value that I put down, and I really, even in decisions that I make, I need to ask myself, does this amount to good leadership, or is this just any other decision that I am making as a leader? So yeah.
Right. So let's talk about good leadership as we wrap up. You talked about good leadership. What makes for good leadership? What are the principles? How can we recognize good leadership, and how can we as individuals as well be good leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that question. One, how can we recognize good leadership? It starts from the people. Always starts from the people. You can never say that this is a good leader without looking at how that has impacted the people. So I think just how people view you, or not necessarily view you, but how people have received your work and how they have been impacted by what you are doing as a leader is critically important to assess whether you are doing well as a leader or you are not doing well as a leader. So what I normally do, and what we've done actually even in the past with Vijana Tupo, is that we used to do assessment forms. So we ask people to assess us, people that have worked with us, people that have been our partners, that have been part of our audience. We ask them to assess us and then give us their feedback of where they felt like this leadership wasn't not very good, and where they felt like they were properly and truly served by any person in the leadership circle at Vijana Tupo Initiative. So good leadership just really starts from the people. There is no way around it. And it also emanates from how we understand leadership and how we understand leadership as a whole angle, not just leadership in terms of taking a position or leadership in sitting in a specific position, but understanding that you're actually placed at a place to serve people and to drive change and to impact several people. But my major one would be, what are your people saying? Good leadership will really just start from, what are your people saying? How do people say they have been served by you? How can we improve good leadership? How can we become good leaders? We can just learn. everything is just learning. There is no, I don't know, I don't think anybody is just born. I mean, we say leaders are born, yes, but all of them learn. They learn something. They read books, so they put in the effort to become better leaders day by day. And one thing that I can say about good leadership is that you have to be a good leader for yourself. You have to be a leader within yourself. You know, you have to lead self before you lead others. If you are bad with timekeeping, for example, if you're bad with doing your projects, if you're bad with, you know, just even being honest with yourself and with other people, there is absolutely no way you're going to lead well other people, because if you cannot be responsible for yourself, how then can you be responsible for thousands of people out there? Yeah.
Yeah, so can we talk about how mindsets, that's where I'm just going to wrap up. I know I said I'll wrap up before, but how does our mindset affect our leadership, our capacity to lead ourselves and lead others? What role does our mindset play in good leadership? Let's close on that note. And then a word of advice for anyone. Yeah.
Okay. Mindset is extremely important, because then it's what gives you the courage to actually move forward, or to be timid and say that I'm not going to do something about it. So one, mindset just, it helps us get out of the shell that we are as leaders. Not many people believe that they are capable to lead. Not many people believe that they are capable to hold position of leadership. So how we view that, how we view ourselves as individuals, and how our mindset is, really helps us to get out of that shell and take up that position and actually just try. Another thing about mindset I can say is, sometimes we young people just think we know, and it's a bad mindset that we just have. We think we actually just know. A lot of times we don't know, and it's actually okay not to know how to lead. I think if we can change that idea that we are this quote unquote all-knowing generation, if we can change that idea, we can actually be better leaders, because then we allow lessons to come our way. We allow good advice to come our way. We allow good people to come our way and direct us and mentor us in terms of how we can be better leaders. So 2 things about mindset. We don't know. Just accept that we actually do not know everything, and we need to learn. So we need to change that mindset. And 2, we need to change that mindset that tells us that we are not capable of leading, and we need to get out of that shell and lead even when we do not know. Yeah. So an advice for young people today.
Yeah.
An advice for young people today is that be yourself. I think when your most authentic selves really just attract the very best people that you need to have in your life. It attracts the partners you need, it attracts the organizations you need, and even it attracts the opportunities you need as a person. So be yourself, be your most authentic self, and do not be timid. Just try whatever it is that comes your way. Just try, and it's all going to work out.
Absolutely. It's all going to work out. And don't forget to get the knowledge as well. The knowledge as well. Just, get knowledge. And don't think that you know it all. All right. And I think that that's a fantastic place for us to end today. Thank you so much, Grace, for joining me for this 40 minutes conversation. It has been well worth the time. I hope it has been for you. And do you want, is there any project you're working on at the moment that you want anyone who watches this and the replay to come on board? Access to your website? What's your website address? You want to share that?
Okay, so just check if anyone is interested in what we're doing. The Youthify Network's website is still being built. It's a resource center, so it really just needs a lot of things before it goes live. However, if you want to get in touch with us in terms of the SDGs and Me podcast, follow our page, our SDGs and Me page, and we have different ways through which you can connect with us, how you can join the SDGs and Me challenge and be part of a community of different young people from all over the world that are advocating for the Sustainable Development Goals. So our major platform actually is the Instagram page and our LinkedIn page, which is also SDGs and Me. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll see you on SDGs and Me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Grace. So have a good evening and get some rest after your exams. All right. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.